How to talk in English. Elara adored the intricate tapestry of English words. She could devour novels, understand complex documentaries, and follow rapid-fire conversations with ease. Her mind was a vast, sprawling library filled with eloquent phrases and intricate grammar rules. Yet, when it came to uttering a single sentence herself, her tongue felt heavy, her thoughts tangled into an indecipherable knot. This baffling disparity frustrated her deeply. The fear of making mistakes was a relentless, silent tormentor. Every time she considered speaking, a chorus of potential errors echoed in her mind. Would her pronunciation be awkward? Would her grammar falter embarrassingly? This paralyzing anxiety often rendered her completely mute, even when she desperately wanted to contribute to a discussion. She knew the words, but they stubbornly refused to leave her lips. She often questioned why this struggle persisted despite her dedication. "I understand English but I can't speak well," she'd lament to herself, a common refrain among learners. It felt like a cruel irony, a personal barrier that seemed insurmountable. Her efforts to learn new words, though constant, didn't bridge the chasm between comprehension and confident verbal expression, intensifying her quiet despair. One rainy afternoon, seeking refuge from her linguistic dilemma, Elara wandered into an old, dusty bookstore she'd never noticed before. The scent of aged paper and forgotten tales filled the air, a comforting aroma. Rows upon rows of books, some tattered, some pristine, lined the towering shelves. She hoped to find inspiration, a hidden guide to unlock her dormant speaking ability. Behind a towering stack of leather-bound classics sat an elderly man with kind eyes and a wise smile, Elias, the proprietor. He had an aura of ancient knowledge, a quiet observer of countless stories. He watched Elara browse, sensing her unspoken struggle. His gentle gaze was non-judgmental, understanding something profound about her quiet despair, offering a silent invitation. "You carry a heavy silence," Elias observed, his voice soft, like rustling leaves. Elara startled, surprised he'd noticed her internal battle. "Your eyes suggest a world of understanding, yet your lips remain sealed." His words weren't accusatory, but rather an empathetic acknowledgement of her deep-seated frustration. He held a well-worn book, its pages dog-eared from years of use. Elara, feeling a strange comfort in his presence, confessed her predicament. "I understand English perfectly, sir, but I just can't speak it," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I always make mistakes, and then I freeze." Elias nodded slowly, his expression unchanging, confirming her fears were common, a universal hurdle for many passionate learners. "Ah, a common tale," Elias murmured, closing his book. "The first secret to how to talk in English isn't talking at all. It's why you must listen." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes twinkling. "Listen not just to words, but to the rhythm, the intonation, the emotion behind them. Absorb the music of the language, don't just decode its lyrics." He continued, "Think of children learning their mother tongue. They spend years soaking up sounds before uttering a complete sentence. They are master listeners. You must become a master listener too, before you demand fluency from your own voice. Immerse yourself in authentic English, podcasts, movies, conversations. Let the sounds wash over you constantly. Find English story reading materials that captivate you. Listen to audiobooks, even if you've read the print version. Notice how the narrator stresses words, pauses, and expresses different characters. Listen to interviews, speeches, and casual chats. Diverse voices will broaden your auditory understanding, preparing your ears for your own voice. Now, for how to take the first step for talking, Elias advised. It requires courage, yes, but only a tiny spark. Start small. Don't aim for perfect speeches. Aim for simple sounds, repeated phrases. Your voice needs practice, just like a muscle. It won't be perfect initially, and that is absolutely fine. Mimicry is powerful, he explained. When you listen, try to repeat exactly what you hear, not just the words, but the cadence. This is called shadow speaking. Play a short audio clip and try to speak along with it, or immediately after it. Your brain will start connecting the sounds to your own vocal cords. Practice speaking aloud, even to yourself, in your room, Elias urged. Describe your day, narrate your thoughts, or simply read an English story reading aloud. The goal isn't an audience, it's self-familiarity with your own voice in English. The more you hear yourself, the more comfortable you'll become speaking naturally. Regarding why I always make mistakes, Elias chuckled softly. Mistakes are not failures, my dear. They are signposts on the road to mastery. Every error is a lesson learned, a wrong path identified. Embrace them, analyze them, and then gently correct them. Without mistakes, there is no progress, only stagnation. When you make a mistake, don't dwell on the embarrassment, he advised. Instead, pause. Ask yourself why you said it that way. Look it up if necessary. Then, rephrase it correctly. This active correction process imprints the right way onto your mind more effectively than simply memorizing rules ever could. See mistakes as invaluable feedback. The core way of learning English is a simple mantra: listen and practice, Elias emphasized. These two actions are inseparable, like breathing in and breathing out. You listen to absorb, and you practice to produce. The more you do both, consistently and without judgment, the more naturally the language will flow. And how to learn words? Elias mused. Don't just memorize lists. Learn words in context. When you encounter a new word in your English story reading, pay attention to the surrounding sentences. How is it used? What feeling does it convey? Look for synonyms and antonyms, building webs of meaning. Keep a vocabulary notebook, but don't just write definitions, he continued. Write example sentences from your reading or listening materials. Try to use the new word in your own spontaneous sentences during your practice sessions. Active recall and application solidify new words into your usable vocabulary, making them accessible. Let me share a very interesting story with you, Elias said, leaning back. It's about a young man, much like yourself, who once came to me decades ago. He was a brilliant scholar, devouring ancient texts in English, but his spoken words were an incoherent jumble of sounds, a source of great personal shame. He understood every nuance of Shakespeare and Milton, Elias continued, but couldn't order a cup of tea without stammering. He felt like a fraud, his vast knowledge trapped behind a locked door. He tried all the conventional methods, flashcards and grammar drills, but his fear of mistakes held him captive. I gave him a unique challenge, Elias recalled, his eyes distant as if reliving the past. I asked him to find the oldest, most obscure English story reading book in my shop, one that resonated with him. Then, I told him to read it aloud, chapter by chapter, not for understanding, but for the sound of the words. He began, his voice hesitant, cracking, full of self-doubt, Elias described. He tripped over long sentences, mispronounced ancient names, and often paused, red-faced. But I insisted, do not stop. Just let the sounds flow. Hear your own voice. Make peace with its imperfections. He did, grudgingly at first. Day after day, he returned, Elias smiled. The old shop became his sanctuary for spoken English. He read epic poems, ancient tales, and even obscure scientific papers, all aloud. His focus shifted from understanding every word to mastering the flow, the rhythm, the sheer act of verbalizing English sounds. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, a transformation occurred, Elias recounted. The stumbling became less frequent. His voice gained confidence, a resonant quality. He was no longer translating in his head, he was thinking in the sounds of English. The barrier between his understanding and his speaking began to crumble. Eventually, he could speak fluently, eloquently, effortlessly, Elias concluded, a proud glint in his eye. He still made mistakes, of course, but they no longer silenced him. They were just part of the journey. He had found his voice by prioritizing sound and courageous practice, accepting the imperfect first steps. Elara listened, captivated by the very interesting story. A profound realization dawned on her. She had been trying to build a perfect house of words without laying a proper foundation of sound. Her intense focus on grammar and vocabulary had overshadowed the fundamental need to simply make sounds. She understood now why she always made mistakes and why they crippled her. She viewed them as definitive failures, rather than crucial steps in the learning process. Elias's story offered a liberating perspective. Mistakes were not just inevitable, they were essential for growth and refinement of her vocal skills. Inspired, Elara decided to take her first step for talking. It wasn't about public speaking, not yet. It was about allowing herself to simply articulate sounds, to experiment with her own voice in English without the crushing weight of perfectionism. Her internal shift was the most significant. She started small, just as Elias recommended. At home, she would whisper sentences to herself. While doing chores, she'd narrate her actions in simple English phrases. She stopped correcting every minor error instantly, instead focusing on keeping the flow, encouraging her vocal muscles to relax. Her listening practice intensified. She sought out new English story reading podcasts on diverse topics, not just her familiar genres. She paid meticulous attention to the speaker's rhythm, the rising and falling tones, the subtle emphasis on certain words. She immersed herself completely, letting the language wash over her. Elara began experimenting with shadow speaking. She'd play short clips from her favorite audiobooks and try to speak along, matching the pace and intonation. It felt awkward at first, a clumsy imitation, but she persisted, reminding herself that this was her first step for talking, a vital one. Every evening, she dedicated time to English story reading aloud. She chose books she enjoyed, focusing less on comprehension and more on the act of vocalizing each word clearly. Her voice felt strange and unfamiliar to her own ears initially, a new instrument she was learning to play. The connection between listen and practice became incredibly clear. The more she listened to native speakers, the more natural her own attempts at speaking became. Her ear guided her tongue, correcting pronunciation instinctively, refining her accent without conscious effort, a true way of learning English. The fear of making mistakes gradually diminished. When she stumbled, she'd correct herself calmly, sometimes even laughing at her own missteps. She started viewing errors not as personal failures, but as opportunities for immediate learning and improvement, a truly liberating perspective. Her approach to how to learn words also shifted. Instead of rote memorization, she started noticing words in multiple contexts. She'd keep a small notebook, jotting down entire phrases where new words appeared, practicing saying those phrases aloud until they felt natural. She challenged herself to use new vocabulary in her daily self-talk. If she learned a word like serendipitous, she'd try to describe a small, unexpected occurrence in her day using it. This active recall moved words from passive recognition to active production, cementing them. Small victories began to accumulate. A complete sentence spoken without hesitation. A nuanced phrase used correctly in context. Each tiny success built her confidence, proving Elias's methods were working. The initial discomfort slowly transformed into a quiet, growing self-assurance. Her first step for talking outside her home was subtle. A simple thank you to a cashier. A polite excuse me to a stranger. These tiny interactions, though brief, were monumental to her. Each one felt like a small act of bravery, a bridge built between her internal and external world. When she did engage in longer conversations, she reminded herself of Elias's wisdom: "Why I always make mistakes is part of the process." She focused on conveying her message, not on achieving perfect grammar. The occasional fumble no longer paralyzed her, it became a natural part of her learning. A profound shift occurred. Speaking English, once a source of dread, began to bring her joy. She found herself articulating thoughts she previously kept silent. The words, once trapped, flowed more freely, expressing her personality, her ideas, her unique perspective with increasing ease. Her newfound voice opened up new avenues for connection. She could participate in discussions, share opinions, and truly engage with English speakers without the constant internal struggle. The barrier that had isolated her slowly dissolved, replaced by a bridge of communication. She also developed a different kind of listening. She didn't just listen to understand, she listened to learn from others' natural speech patterns, vocabulary choices, and expressions. Every conversation became a mini lesson in authentic, spoken English, deepening her grasp. The way of learning English revealed itself as a rhythmic dance between input and output. Listening provided the music, and speaking provided the steps. The more she danced, the more gracefully she moved through conversations, no longer feeling like an awkward beginner. Months later, Elara returned to Elias's bookstore. She found him in his usual spot, amidst the comforting chaos of books. Her heart swelled with gratitude. This time, she wasn't hesitant. She approached him with a confident, open demeanor, ready to share her progress. "Elias," she began, her voice clear and strong, without a trace of the old anxiety. "I wanted to thank you. Your story, your advice, it truly transformed my journey. I can now speak English, not perfectly, but with confidence. You taught me the true how to talk in English." Elias looked up, a knowing smile spreading across his face. "I hear it, my dear," he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Your silence is gone. Your voice sings. It was always within you, I merely reminded you how to let it out. The true work was all yours. And I understand why you must listen more than ever," Elara continued. "It's the wellspring of fluency. And how to take first step for talking was about bravery, not perfection. I still make mistakes, but they don't stop me anymore. They are my teachers. And how to learn words in context and then use them actively," she added. "That's truly the way. English story reading aloud became my daily ritual, and listen and practice became my core philosophy. Your very interesting story ignited my path." Elara now often shared her own story with others who struggled with speaking English, becoming a beacon of hope. She emphasized Elias's wisdom, showing them the simple, yet profound, way of learning English. She became an advocate for embracing the journey. Her journey demonstrated that the real hurdle wasn't a lack of knowledge, but a fear of expression. By taking courage in the first step for talking and understanding why you must listen, anyone could unlock their voice. Her transformation inspired countless others. Her vibrant inner world, once confined to her thoughts and understanding, now found beautiful expression through spoken English. The words flowed, sometimes gracefully, sometimes with a stumble, but always with authenticity. She was truly speaking her mind and heart. Elara understood that learning English was a continuous loop of listening, practicing, making mistakes, and learning from them. There was no final destination, only an exciting, evolving journey of communication and connection, always progressing. Her quiet triumph was a testament to patience, persistence, and the power of embracing imperfection. The old bookstore, and Elias's gentle guidance, had been the catalyst for a transformation far beyond just language acquisition. It was about self-liberation. The echo of Elias's wise voice, "Listen and practice," resonated within her. It was a simple yet profound truth that had set her free. She was no longer just a listener, she was a speaker, a participant, a storyteller in her own right, her voice clear. Elara's story became a beacon for aspiring English speakers. Understanding is merely the first chapter. To speak, one must listen with intent, practice with courage, embrace mistakes as teachers, and never underestimate the power of simply taking that very first, brave step.